duct tape and bubble gum. Oh yeah. Welcome back to the All-Purpose Pod for an All-Purpose Life, wherever you are today and however you are listening to the Call Me Mr. You, the podcast. We thank you again for making us a part of your morning, your day, and your week. We're your weekly mirror check before you go change the world, baby. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and of course, the Twitter. Download, like, share, and subscribe. We love the support. Love you guys. Hope you're enjoying the show. Good morning. Oh, how's it going, brother?
Doing good. How about you, man?
Fantastic, man. How was the weekend?
Good. It was, yesterday I watched a fair amount of football. Saturday was a lot of running around and, doing that adulting thing.
Adulting, yeah, man. That takes some time away from the football watching sometimes. Yep. Sometimes Thursdays, Sundays, and Mondays are not always reserved, or even Saturdays too, not always reserved for football all day like I prefer, because you got to do grown up adult stuff. So that is what it is. But I had just a topic on my heart, kind of just popped up. I want to kind of share it and discuss it today, because what I noticed, maybe you see it different on your timeline, but especially, particularly on Twitter, it seems as though the idea of podcasting has a little bit of a stigma to it. Sure. Not quite sure where that's coming from exactly. I know that back in the days, I mean, I'm old enough to, just be honest, just dating myself, I'm old enough to remember the shock jock radio guys and the stigma they had, and they were always hated and loathed among the so-called true radio personalities, because they just kind of just turn the camera on and the record button and just talked a lot of garbage. So that's why they became known as that. They would say an incendiary thing just to get people to listen to their show. I kind of got that part because I was kind of a traditional radio guy. I grew up listening to, I would consider people who are strong in the world of radio and media and stuff. So I grew up on that. So the shock jocks never really appealed to me. I get it. But now we're in a place now where podcasting has become almost a replacement around the world for radio. I don't know if that's good or bad. You kind of feel like radio is kind of dying out in some areas. I don't want that to happen because I love radio with a passion. It's part of my background and my upbringing, to be honest with you. It was the background of my life story, to be honest with you. Radio was a big part of that. Surprised I didn't go into radio. But podcasting has become a bit of a replacement for it, or at least an alternative, at least. And it seems like some folks seem to not like podcasters. Have you seen that?
So some of that is the entry point is anybody can do it, right? So, cool. When you were getting into radio, stuff like that, you had to go to broadcasting school. You had to intern somewhere. You had to pay a lot of dues to get on the air. And podcasting allows anybody that opportunity. But the great thing about podcasting is it allows anyone that opportunity. So it's really just kind of how you look at it. The other thing that's kind of funny, especially on my end, because I owned traditional businesses before, right? So I had an auto shop, I had an HVAC company, and it's funny the difference in when you have a career path that offers something useful to somebody. Not to say that this doesn't, but like a service or a product or something to that end.
I'm with you.
And so it's funny when people that when you had those traditional businesses, they would hit you up and be like, oh, I have this thing and whatever. And now that you take a different path, you get like kind of slighted comments like, hey, how's your little podcast doing? Stuff like that. Yeah. So, I mean, it's funny because it's a condescending comment that, they're trying to sound interested, but are disingenuous in what they're saying. And so it's not that it's funny seeing that change in people, because now you don't necessarily have something they can use or, benefits them in a particular way, especially if they happen to not be a sports fan. In my case. So it's interesting, but at the same time, one of the best things about people that kind of hate on you is they tune in.
Right. I mean, I've seen some of that stuff too. I think anytime, and this is just a general statement, not really about podcasting in this particular instance, but anytime you do anything, especially in the entrepreneurial realm, because I think that you and I definitely share that kind of attitude. We have that kind of spirit. And anytime you try to do that kind of stuff, what that essentially means is a departure from whatever the normal is, whether it's the 9 to 5, the almighty cubicle, or however you want to put it. You know what I'm saying? We're departing from that. We say, you know what? This whole check lifestyle, this person who I don't know gets to decide if I have vacation with my family or not. Those are the kind of things that you're departing from when you go into the entrepreneurial realm. So I think people just hate on it because it's a mirror of what they don't have the heart and the courage to do. I'm not quite sure that relates to podcasting as well. I don't know. Many of you guys that have heard some of the earlier episodes of the show, you know why we started doing this. It's been probably at least one episode every season of this show. I've discussed why we've done this. It's never been to be famous, to be the next ESPN or Fox Sports. I don't care. Not even a tiny bit. I don't give a flip about none of that stuff. It doesn't matter to me at all. There was a whole more esoterical reason for why we're doing this. And even with the sports add-on, it's been a new nuance. Partnering with you, Bo, and some other folks that are out here that are a part of our network. It's always still been about the whole point of inspiring and influencing. That has not changed at its core. So I don't know why people hate on it so much. We can go there a little bit, but I want to hear from you about why you decided to start podcasting. You had obviously an opportunity to do other things that would have maybe perhaps fulfilled you or at least paid the bills. Why you decided to start podcasting, man?
Yeah, well, that last part, definitely. There's a million other things that I could do. I could get a paper route for stuff that people don't actually
do that
buy anymore. No, that's what I'm saying. They don't. But the one subscriber I have would pay more than the podcasting that I currently do. So there's a lot of other realms I could have went into. But for me, it was, I didn't really enjoy any of the things that I did. I was good at them, right? Like mechanical trades, like I good at them, but particularly like them. I liked interacting with my clients and meeting new people, and so I liked that part of it, and I liked doing the marketing end of it. But as far as the actual job itself, like it never really was a thing for me. And since I love football, always have, this allowed me to get back to a sport that I truly enjoy. And obviously I can't lace them up anymore. I'm old and slow, so this is as close as I can get. And so it makes it fun because now I get to engage with not just a fan base of people here in Seattle, but I get interact with fan bases around the world. And so that is a very cool opportunity. And that's something that is awesome about podcasting, because you don't have that high entry point of being on the radio and then going through all of that to maybe get to a national broadcast or whatever. You can actually put it out, and there's 7 billion people on the planet, so you're bound to find your people, enjoy your content. It takes some time, but probably one of the biggest things when I do get asked about podcasting is get started. That's my biggest thing, is just start. And it's good that your viewer base is small when you start, because you're gonna be terrible. Just is what it is, because you've never done it, right? So tell me one thing you just stepped in and were like, I'm the guy. 0 times, right? Like even if you're athletically gifted at sports, you still had to learn the sport. You were not good peewee, right? Like the helmet was too big, you fell over. Like it just is what it is, right? So the fact that you're going to have, a couple of family members maybe that watch, and then that's it. That's fine, because your first shows are going to be bad. You're probably going to say 5,000 times. You're going to,
I hate that.
you're going to misquote things. You're going to you're going to make a ton of mistakes. So it's probably better to do it in front of a smaller audience that are going to be honest with you and be like, hey, you probably want to tweak this, or, a buddy of mine was tuning in and he's like, hey man, one thing, instead of saying, I think, he's like, switch that to I believe. It adds a little more credibility to what you're saying, even though it doesn't actually change what you're saying. And, I was like, oh, that's actually a really good idea. It's something they teach in, classes for leadership positions, right?
Absolutely.
So,
that's true.
So, I mean, it's just little tweaks to your thing that you learn along the way. And it's better that you don't do that in front of a national audience to start.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all started this, for what we think of valid reasons and everything. And it's really a tightrope, man, because it's about content too, and giving, quote unquote, giving people what they want.
Sure.
At the same time, there's still people behind here who take time away from their families and whatnot. Like I said, there's some podcasts out there, man. I don't have any names to give everybody. You can see it, it when you see it. They're not talking about nothing, and they'll tell you that. It's kind of like the Seinfeld of podcasts.
Yeah,
they're not talking about anything. And they're just like, and they're good with it. And it's like, you know what? They're sitting there on their mom's couch eating cheese doodles, and it don't matter to them. It's okay. You know what I'm saying? I think you and I have a whole. What you say?
And they'll find that niche. Like, they'll find the people that like their show, right?
Yeah,
I mean, so it realistically, you could have one about whatever you want.
Absolutely. I mean, you and I got some different aspirations, and I love to hear, from some of our listeners about what you love about podcasting. Why did you start? What you hope to achieve? I know that you and I talked pretty deeply about some of that stuff. I want you to share with everybody, if you don't mind sharing, kind of the inner, going into the inner sanctum about why you decided to start doing this and what you hope to achieve by doing it.
Yeah, for me or
for you.
For me.
Yeah, you.
I mean, I don't know. Again, it's to get back to the sport that I liked. And, it also lets me still interact with people, lets me still, get out and support local businesses and stuff. It's why I started my, coming from a Niners fan, that makes a ton of sense.
Oh my goodness. I can't come in agreement. I don't know what you're talking about.
Alex, a good dude.
Good morning, Alex. Thanks for joining us today, man.
But so I mean, it allows you to get out and interact with people, and it gives me something different that I didn't have in a traditional workplace. Some of it is flexibility in the hours that I work. My one of my work days is I got to watch sports, right? Like, oh man, that's rough. That's
man, I got to watch sports again. Oh, what a crappy life.
Right? It's terrible. It's terrible. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that I really like about it. Obviously, the hardest thing about getting going is if you're trying to make it a business, unlike a traditional business where you have a service or a product that you immediately have something to sell, right? So in business terms, you can survive on cash flow in the beginning, right? Because you're not making profit, but there's enough coming in to pay the bills, and you're just kind of like running that wheel to stay open. If you're trying to do podcasting as a business, man, it's all on viewers, right? And Absolutely. So you have to do it realistically at a loss, right? Because you have your streaming services and whatever other things that you're using to build your podcast, you're going to run it at a loss for a while, because you got to be able to build that subscriber base to be able to bring in advertisers, sponsors, whatever, right? So, I mean, there's a little bit of a different dynamic to it. So, that's another one of those, get started, start building it while you have another job or whatever, and be patient, because it is a labor of love.
Absolutely. Here's a question that I want to share with the folks that we're going to jump in and help us out, but I'll just ask you right now. What did you learn about yourself along this journey of venturing into this entrepreneurial effort? What did you learn about yourself and even others along the way? What did you learn?
Well, I mean, probably one of the hey mom, probably one of the things that I benefited from, I should say, having owned other businesses, is I'm not worried about the grind. I'm used to the grind. I've done the building before. The process is a little different, obviously, but I'm not one to shy away from the work. Okay. The other end of it is, it's interesting how few people will even just subscribe, right? Like even if they're not listening, which whatever, if they're not into sports, I get it, whatever. But even the menial task of just subscribing to your channel doesn't happen. And so that is something that is very interesting. And that it sort of goes into what I said before, like when you're in a career path that doesn't necessarily benefit, that person anymore, all of a sudden there's a different view on what it is you're doing.
Yeah, you stole my answer, because I was going to answer the questions as well, both questions. But for me, what I learned about myself is that, I can actually finish a task. I can't actually stay focused and finish a task. I mean, most of my upbringing, my upbringing wasn't awful. I was in a rough place geographically. It had some hard stuff happen and everything. But the one thing about me was I would never finish a goal long term. I don't mean like graduating from school. I mean like long term stuff that you planned out. I would never do that. I would get to the end and either quit, change my mind, or find something else to start. So I was always a constant restarter. This is the first time, like I said, this podcast isn't some kind of plot to take over the world or be the most famous guy, number one on Apple Pod. I don't care. That's not why I'm doing this. And it's like, for me to have done this long, and it's not a long time, but for me, it's like a million years. I mean, 3 years for me is like a million years, because I've never stayed on course where I continue to keep developing content continuously. My weeks are set up where I'm gathering information, taking time to research. I'm doing that kind of stuff every single week for 3 years. It's a big, so for me, it's like, I'm like, wow, you can stick to something and focus. So the podcast kind of help open up, something about myself I didn't know, that I can actually do this, start something and actually finish it. So I'm excited about that part. The part about the other part of the question, well, and about others, you stole mine, because I know a lot of people. People always say, "Well, I really know a lot of people." I don't mean just my old high school friends, my old college friends, my former co-workers, my old employees, people who I served with in multiple ministries up and down the East Coast. I got I have nearly 50 years of networks and friends and connections and relationships. And I am finding it to be a struggle for them to go on YouTube and press that little white button.
Yeah.
It is astounding.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you don't listen to it, it's like, people tell me how much they love me all the time. I'm like, wait, this is my heart. This podcast is my heart. I think it's a show I do with Bo. This is my heart right here. You know what I'm saying? If Bo say, you know what, I don't want to work with you anymore. I won't be your friend anymore. This is still my heart.
Yeah.
And I'm still keep doing this, because this is just where this is coming out of me. Listen to some of the old episodes from season 1 and season 2. I'm sharing stories that most podcasters ain't sharing. I'm sharing about my life, stuff that's embarrassing to me, that was shameful.
Yeah,
I shared it on a podcast on the first 2 seasons alone. I'm like, I learned that people, I don't know what it is. I can't even explain it, man. You did a better job than I could even think about doing. I can't even try to explain why that can't happen. And then the Twitter part, that's a whole different aspect, because I'm still learning all these people. I don't have deep friendship with everybody there, but I got 14,000 people plus.
Sure.
How many of them actually press the like button on our YouTube channels? It's really incredible. And I don't really I'm not offended. I'm not mad. I ain't got an attitude about it. It's just weird to hear all this love and good stuff, but you can't go to YouTube and press the button. I don't get it. So I'm learning that you can't rely on other people to you need permission to be successful.
So the only thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm saying you don't have to have their permission to be successful. Just go do what you got to do. Because
one thing that you can take some solace in, I guess, in that is, realistically, for you to be able to get to where it is you want to go in a podcast, right? Because at some point you probably want to monetize it so it makes sense.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So when you think about it that way, regardless of how many people you know, for you to actually hit that number, the bulk of your viewers have to be people you don't know anyway. So the fact that they're not necessarily there at the jump,
sure.
I mean, is it a bummer? Yes. I wouldn't even say it's frustrating. You're just like, I mean, that's too bad. Like, I feel like that could have been like, something, right? But when you think of to be able to get to where you need to go, or you to be able to monetize on any of the platforms, really, the sheer volume that you need has to be people that you've never met anyway. So that's why I never really get too caught up in it. Like, sometimes you'll have moments where you're like, really? Like, we can't click a button. I mean, all right. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, if you need, to hit these numbers for, say YouTube or, Facebook Live or any of those,
mm-hmm.
it has to be people you don't know anyway, right? For you to be able to hit the crazy amount of numbers that you have to hit to be able to make that work. So I don't think too much on it. There's moments where you're just like, man, okay.
We talk about it.
I guess.
You and I talk about it.
And but you don't put a whole lot of thought in it. You just kind of like, and then you move on. And I guess one of the other things that I would say for people that are trying to get into it is prep how it makes sense for you. But come prepared, right? Because respect the fact that someone is taking time out of their day to watch what it is you're doing. So, like for me, I got to write stuff down, right? So I got a notebook with me all the time, but I don't actually script what I write because I will reword things a million times. So I'd be terrible on like a teleprompter. I just couldn't do it. So because I was always a trainer, I always had to come up with different ways to teach people, right? So if I told you how to do something once and you just didn't get what I was saying, I would reword everything that I did. And so unfortunately for what it is I'm trying to do today, sometimes that's a problem, right? Because if I write something down, I may go to say it and then I'm like, I don't like how that looks now. And so I actually just write bullet points and then freewheel it from there.
That's fair enough. Let's go ahead and I think we have time for at least one comment here. So this is from Nathan, the co-host of the Coaches Couches Unplugged. Oh, awesome. Sorry, I did that. Couch Coaches Unplugged. Sorry, Nathan. But he and I talked a couple of times. He's a pretty cool guy, man. It's like his show's going to be coming along a little bit. They started a podcast because they love football, love talking about football. Started the podcast 2 weeks ago.
Awesome.
So they can share their thoughts on the football world. Same thing like what you were talking about, bro. They want to talk fantasy football primarily, but they want to also give advice, which I definitely enjoyed when I was doing fantasy football for 15 years. I need all the advice I can get. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So it's like a good guy, man. Somebody who loves podcasting, who sees the value of it. I love hearing that, man. Before we move on, man, I want to ask you a quick question. Let's make it real quick.
Yep.
Will you do podcasting forever if you could?
Sure, because it's something that you can do forever. It's one of those things where would I be able to physically do some of the jobs that I was able to do before? No, probably not, right? So this, as long as I have, the internet, some lights, a camera, and a mic, you can do this thing. So obviously long term, it makes way more sense, especially as you get older. It's I mean, I would for sure. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, same here. As long as I don't have to. My only caveat.
I like your shirt, man.
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate it. My only caveat that I want to have to keep setting up and unsetting. I'm not doing that right now, but I want it to be in a set place.
Yes.
Everything's already set, ready to roll. All I gotta do is walk in. Hopefully, it's just already dusted and everything, and I'm ready to just go in. That's my only thing. If I can have that, everything, lighting, everything over these cameras set.
Yep.
That's ideal to me. That's what I would love. All right. Well, we don't have a lot of time for college today. I want to talk about USC and Colorado so bad, but can't do it. All I can say what Bo said many times ago, that run defense still a problem.
It is still a problem.
Yeah, USC they solved it the best that they could, but it's still an issue. It's still going on. They got Georgia and Auburn. They had a big LSU Ole Miss thriller. Wow, I wish I watched that game, but I had some other stuff to do and couldn't get there. But let's jump into our power rankings, which were done right this week. How did you go first this week, brother? Go ahead and go for it, man. 1 to 10 or 10 to 1, however you want to do it. Let's go.
I'll do 1 to 10 because there's not a lot of movement at the top. So I still got the Niners at number 1. I got the Eagles at 2, KC at 3, Bills at 4. I had the Bills winning that game. I thought it was going to be a little bit closer, but I like the Bills defense better than the Dolphins. But then I have Dolphins coming in right behind them at 5. I got Cowboys at 6. I'm just not as big of a believer in the Cowboys as a lot of people are. So they had a nice game, but again, what Cowboys for me, because they've done the same things for 20 years, they're going to end up kind of suffering on my ranking until probably close to the end of the season, solely because when do the Cowboys stop playing football? December. So I know that weighs a little bit on it. Just, history comes into my thinking here. But and then I got the Ravens at 7. I got the Lions at 8. I got the Hawks at 9. And then the Browns fell off my list altogether, especially now that Deshaun is hurt. And they definitely didn't look good. So I have the Bucks popping into my 10th spot, going 3-1, which, man, that one was tough for me to put in there because, again, I'm just not a big Baker guy. But, that team is playing good. And so I can't hate on a team that's playing well.
No, you cannot, sir. Well, okay. Love it. I'll go ahead and follow in kind. We'll go 1 to 10. I'm glad I got my stuff straight with the power rankings because I think I like it better this way. It's kind of hard to sit there and wait that long.
Yeah.
Kind of nerve-wracking, but I had the Niners at number 1. I think they're the NFC's best team, number 1 defense, from my understanding. Got playmakers on the old man. Purdy's not even playing well, so kind of sky's the limit with that. 2, I had the Dolphins there. I think they're the AFC's best team right now as we speak. They may even be the second best team in the entire league. I don't know. I mean, they haven't even got Ramsey back, and they already got it's a pretty good defense. It's not a bad defense. And we haven't seen them healthy until now. They look pretty dangerous, man. Buffalo will handle them, though. No question. But I didn't move them out of that spot because of that game only. 3, I got the Chiefs. I mean, you know it, man. They got an elite offense. They can beat anybody at any time. I mean, top 10 defense now, especially with CJ being back. And they got Mahomes, man. I mean, originally I didn't think they were going to be able to repeat, but they look like they can.
I mean, they struggled against the Jets, though.
I mean, yeah, no. I mean, just period. But
yeah,
they struggled against the Jets, no question about it. And the Eagles at 4. They don't have all the pieces together, but they're still undefeated, man. And that means something. That lack of efficiency in the red zone. Concerned about that if you're an Eagles fan, you should be. Number 5, got the Bills. Huge win yesterday. I mean, everybody that was on my Twitter, they're probably quiet right now because most of them were saying the Finn. I had Finn all through there. Hardly had any Bills. But they complete on offense and defense, and they kind of showed it. It's one of the best teams pass rush-wise. Then we have Von Miller back. So I'm like, woof.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, even though I said that Dolphins are the best team in the AFC potentially, these guys are the class of the division without question. 6, I had the Lions. Dominant win over the division rivals. I didn't expect that to happen. I thought the Packers were a little bit better than that, but they had so many guys out. I mean, Bakhtiari was out, and that plays a part, man. He's really solid in there. I mean, ask Aaron Rodgers. He'll tell you. His whole countenance changes when Bakhtiari's injured. You know what I'm saying? But they had a powerful rushing attack behind Montgomery, which I'm kind of shocked it was him that produced that. I'm talking about 200 yards of rushing. I'm shocked that Gibbs wasn't that because he's like their complete back and they hardly ever use him. It's kind of weird, but it is what it is. But they had 11 quarterback hits and 5 sacks. They should win the division pretty easily. 7, I got the Cowboys. I had them dip a little bit from last week. I can't even say that they played great against bad teams because, especially after week 3, I mean, the Cardinals came in and smacked them around. And they got the Niners, the Chargers, and the Eagles coming up next. So I'm like, if you get 2 out of this, you're really, really fortunate. I don't see it happen. I think they probably either be 2-1 or not 2-1. They'd be 1-2 or they'd be 0-3 the next 3 games. But that's just my opinion. Ravens at 8. They overcame some ball security issues that they had to beat a division rival in the Browns. They had a half a dozen starters missing and still did that. I hate that Jackson is rushing so much. I hate it, man, because he has injury issues. Don't care what you want to say, despite his big fat contract he just got. He has injury issues, and running with the ball in your hand ain't gonna take away from this. It's gonna only add to that situation because people are gonna hit you because you got the ball in your hand. You're not running around looking for a pass. You running with the ball in your hand, they're gonna hit you. I'm not really concerned about that going forward, but so far they're winning, so they deserve where they are. I struggle with number 9 because I was thinking about the Browns because they did some good things despite the fact that Watson was out this week and they got thumped. But I'm putting the Hawks there at 9. That's just fair. I think the record bears that out. And the last spot goes to the Buccaneers, like you said.
Yep.
New in my top 10. Baker spreading the ball around, 3 touchdowns yesterday, and the top spot in the South, man. So they might be running away with the division already, maybe. Evans and his hamstring. Heard about that kind of like way after the game and didn't know about that. And I go, oh boy, here we go. Soft tissue.
Yep.
I don't know what's going to happen there. But they really should have, they beat a team that probably should have been more competitive in the Saints. I don't know what's happening there. That's a problem because Carr is back and it looks like trash out there. And Kamara is back and look bad. So I don't know if this project is working so far, but we'll see. But that's our top 10 power rankings.
Yeah, I was surprised that the Saints have not, like, I had them winning that division. Now, I didn't have them as world beaters or anything, right? But I had them winning that division, and it's just like, as you watch them play, you're not even seeing things that you're like, okay, they can build on that, right? Like, they're just inconsistent everywhere. And then, of course, Kamara comes back, and you're like, okay, well, here we go. But it's his first game back, right? So you're not going to be sharp first game back. But then you look at this Bucs team. I mean, as much as it's hard for me to have come out of my face, is Baker's playing really good,
I'm not falling for it.
That's exactly it. It's just
I've been through so much with that. I'm not falling for this.
Right? I'm sorry. Like I'm just waiting for that other shoe to drop where he, has that 4-pick game, and that, I keep waiting for Baker to have that. And
I don't want him to fail. I don't want him to fail. Like, don't give me. I don't want Baker to fail.
Exactly.
You don't want a team now.
No, exactly. You don't want him to fail, but you've seen this movie before.
I've seen this movie before, and I hate how it ends.
Yeah, but I mean, this is actually his 4th team, right? Because he was a Brown, he was a Panther, a Ram, and now he's with the Bucs.
About the Rams? Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was with the Rams for 5 minutes, and then
that means my point even more valid.
Yeah, okay. No, exactly. I mean, it's one of those, like, it was so hard to put the Bucs in that last spot, and it's hard to take them seriously because, I mean, like, it's a decent team on paper, right? Like, it's not great, it's decent, and then you have Baker, and you're just like, Yeah. But I mean,
I'm not going to do it.
And who knows? Maybe this is the year that he proves us wrong and he balls out all year. And good on him if he does. That would be amazing. What it means, even if he did, hypothetically say he does, and say he gets second round of the playoffs or something, and he's coming back for next season. Do I think he's that guy? No, I'm like, he had a good year. And then I'd go right back to being like, yeah, Baker's probably gonna, have that moment somewhere along the way here. So
sounds like a roller coaster ride that I'm not really interested in. I think I had the Saints going for the division too. I mean, God, it was hard for me not to, man, with all of the talent they got on defense, number one, exactly. And then they got Olave back there.
Yep.
Like Alvin Kamara, who can catch passes too. Don't get me wrong. He's a good receiver as well. You know what I'm saying? Then you got Michael Thomas, man, and then this Rashid Shaheed kid is like, they got talent. So I'm like, you guys, you should be able to win this division.
Oh yeah.
I'm not. I can't change my mind now. I already picked them, but I'm like, are you guys gonna do it? You gonna make Mr. You look good, or are you gonna do the other thing that you've been doing?
Yeah, I mean, if they're doing it, they're doing the slow play, right? Like they're building stress for it.
Yeah, they're building some suspense. Yeah, it's working on me because I'm feeling the stress of it. But all right, let's go into our week 4 stuff, man. All right, so what game you want to start with, brother? Where you want to start?
Well, let's see. I mean, we might as well talk about the KC Jets. The last yesterday's game, because I mean, I did not have the Jets making that a game on my bingo card. Like that was not that is not what I thought that was going to be. I thought that was going to be a KC route the whole way. And if I remember right, the line on it was like 13 points or something. Like it was pretty crazy. So, obviously Vegas thought that KC was going to roll. And we all know that the Jets have a good defense, right? But we assumed that they were just going to be on the field all day because that offense is inept. And I mean, kudos to Wilson. He did a decent job most of the night. He had a fumble that kind of derailed the thing, but I mean, they were right there. They were tied up most of the game. So it was an impressive thing out of him, but it's one of those, it's one off, he's going to be terrible again next week. And so you don't put a lot of stock in what Wilson did, but it made the game interesting because I actually wasn't going to watch it. I was just going to watch highlights because I figured it was going to be a rout. So that one seemed like I was just going to be able to watch all the touchdowns on SportsCenter and call it a day.
Well, I can't fault him for how things went. I think he did a pretty good job considering all we've been seeing. I mean, I don't have nobody can go back on Twitter and find anything about me saying anything about Zach Wilson because there probably isn't anything there because I haven't said anything. I saw how the Jets did him from the beginning. No offense, but didn't take care of that young man. Sure. Kind of threw him out there, threw the playbook at him and said, go figure it out, kid. And look at the end result. I mean, the man was afraid.
Let me ask you a question on that. Let me ask you a question on that. When's the last time the Jets did take care of one of their quarterbacks?
I can't go back that far into the history that we're talking about Joe Namath. Perhaps they took care of him. 1969?
Yeah, right.
Did that help? I mean, I don't know. But they did it. They didn't do him right. And that's not how you do a rookie quarterback. I don't care what his pedigree is, what you think he can accomplish. You can't do him like that. If they had to do that with Jordan Love in Green Bay, he'd be just like this. A shell of himself, sketchy, fearful in the pocket, indecisive, unwilling to throw down the field. That's what happened. That's what happened to this guy. So to see him put up, throw 28 times, threw 39 times, 28 completions, 250 yards in the air, and 2 scores, I guess what? Kudos to him, man. That's a good thing. He ain't afraid to throw the ball down. Good. That's what you want out of him. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for his performance, man. I am still sitting here laughing. I'm like, Mahomes just being Mahomes again. People talk about him so much. I'm like, yeah, but all of that flash and those sideways passes and underarms and all that kind of stuff, it's all good, man. But guess what else comes with it? INTs. And it happens all the time. It's like you got to take the good with the bad with that because, like, it can be really, really good or it can be really, really bad. Yeah. It's like most folks don't mind that because they already got a championship out of it, but it's like it's sketchy. I mean, like, honestly, when we play fantasy football, I didn't pick him. Most folks would just like run and go get Mahomes. They would even trade up higher so they can get him. But none of them guys ever won a championship. Yeah, just wonder why that happened. Because you get this kind of stuff. I mean, I thought the Chiefs were going to go down for in an upset. I'm shocked that they even pulled it out. I mean, they just were playing it really, really tight, man. But it looked like it was a pretty good game, man. But what else you got on that? Anything else about the game itself? I kind of feel like I don't know.
No, I mean,
I think about some of the Sauce Gardner, I want to go there, but I don't think we have enough time for that because I want to talk about this. This happened when they played us in the preseason. When they played the Giants in the preseason, that man was pulling on, I forgot who our wide receiver was, but that man was pulling on him so much, grabbing fabric. Oh, so I'm like, this is the number one cornerback according to what everybody's saying. Sauce, hot sauce. Yeah. He pulled on that. I regret I can't remember the wide receiver's name on our team. We don't really have a number one, so I Sauce was on him all day, and he would just pull on him so much. I'm like, is anybody seeing this? And now it happened again last night, and they fighting over whether it was a real, legit pass interference or not. Whatever. But I mean, oh man, I ain't going there, man. Let's go ahead and move on. We don't have time for that. How about the Dolphins and the Bills? You referenced it earlier, man. But
yeah,
what a game, man. I mean, you said you picked them. I didn't have a chance to do any picking of the game, but I kind of just felt like, you know what? If the Bills come out there with defense, the Dolphins are going to get got. That's the only thought I really had, was that they play defense the way the Bills normally do.
Exactly.
We're going to win this game. It ain't going to be no blowout. So this score was surprising to me that it was that much. Josh Allen had 4 passes and ran for a touchdown. So they were prolific back there. But then again, it wasn't really a dominant defensive effort by the Bills either, because Miami had 393 yards on offense. They almost had 400 yards on offense, so the defense wasn't making that much of an impact in that regard, but they did force 2 turnovers and sacked Tua about 4 times, which is like kind of what you want to do. I mean, this guy, their team is predicated on speed, so you get to the quarterback, they can run around in circles out there all they want. It's not going to do much good. And then that man, I mean, at this point, it was a game of chicken until they started had to punt 3 times, and that big fumble by your boy Mostert. There it is. This is what I saw so many times. I mentioned this 2 weeks ago about how he was one of my big fantasy guys. I would always pick him. People let him fall. They wouldn't think about it. I would always grab him. Trust in this man. Because some days he'll give me 2 or 3 touchdowns in one game, like what happened last week against the Broncos, and then he'll give me all the fumbles in the world. More fumbles than I could ever ask for and hope for, dream for, pray for. He give me all the fumbles I want. He did it in San Francisco, and he's doing it again right now. I think I'm not sure that was a difference maker in the game, but it was a big part. But yeah, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I mean, I had the Bills, right, because I like their defense better, and that offense can score, right?
Yes,
so
sir.
I figured it was going to be a track meet, and it would come down to, 1 or 2 stops that the Bills were able to do. Because, I mean, the Dolphins are going to get their yards, right? They are elite speed everywhere, right? So, I mean, they're going to get yardage, and they're going to score. Like, they're going to get it in the end zone. But their defense isn't amazing. Like, it's not bad, but it's not great, right? So it's just kind of a middle of the road. So if you have 2 offenses that put up a ton of points, and then you have a middle of the road defense and a top flight defense, I'm taking the top defense, right? So it's why I leaned that way. Obviously, Tua, when he's healthy, he's going to put up stats, right? And it's funny because, like you said, in fantasy, I wouldn't go get Mahomes first, right? Like that's not my guy. Nope. I would actually get a later round, Cousins or Herbert or whatever, because they put up a ton of points and they put up a ton of yards. So statistically, they're great in fantasy. Now, if they're the quarterback of your team, unfortunately, neither one of them have a defense to speak of, and you catch a lot of L's, but they put up great stats. So if you had them on your fantasy team, awesome. If you just happen to be a, Chargers or Vikings fan, well, I mean, that's a bummer. But and Stafford used to be the same way with Detroit, right?
He was most definitely the same way. He could be 5 fantasy points. He could be 5 fantasy points in a minute. You kidding me?
Oh, yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. No,
I traded for him once. I couldn't believe that. I said, "Oh, I got me a steal." He gave me Matthew Stafford. Oh, man, put up 4 or 5 spots for me. A couple of I played.
But yeah, I mean, but when you think about it, when he was in Detroit, right, he'd put up crazy yardage. They wouldn't win because they didn't have a defense, right? So a very big difference between fantasy and real life. That's for sure.
They penalize you really hard for interceptions in fantasy leagues, man. So that's why all that meant nothing, because 2 interceptions and all that production gets negated. Well, we got to move a little bit faster than we have been moving. We having too much fun here. Let's move on quickly. All right. So what's the next game you got, brother? What's your next game?
So I mean, we should talk about the battle of the bottom, Broncos Bears. So
what a great game, though.
It was a good game. It was a good game. It was, you finally saw them play some offense, and by them I mean both teams.
Yes.
But if you're a Bears fan right now, you gotta be really questioning what's happening with your franchise. And if you're in the building as a coach on that Bears staff, man, you got a lot of questions today. To blow a 28-7 lead, and I mean there's a whole lot of questions to be answered by that coaching staff at this point.
That man, what's his name? Eberflus?
Yep.
He taking the heat today. I don't know what time the press conference is. I wish I could watch it.
Yeah.
He taking the heat today. He taking the extra L today because there's a lot of things, times where he went for what he shouldn't have. There's a lot of questions about him, but I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I'm excited about Russell Wilson. I know I discussed him a lot, especially in the preseason, because I had predictions for the Broncos to do some things that up to now they have not done yet. So I kind of been watching. I kind of feel bad for him too personally. I'm like, man, this guy has talent, man. He did a lot of things. I felt like he put Seattle on the map in a lot of ways. People can say, oh, Legion of Boom and stuff, but I feel like Russell Wilson played a big part in their success. And it's like, he's just getting crapped on now. I'm like, wow, dude, you were right there, man. So I kind of been underground rooting for him a little bit, Yeah. I threw for 3 touchdowns yesterday, man. I was excited about that. I mean, they bounced back from a 50-point blowout in Miami.
The second worst loss by 21.
Yeah, the second worst loss in Super Bowl era. I'm saying, I mean, it was incredible, man. But he threw for 223. I think he had a 21 and 28 passes. I mean, dude's a 9-time Pro Bowl. He's not a bum or nothing like that. But he was just, I'll tell you right now, when he hit that pass to Marvin Mims Jr., I jumped out of my seat. I ain't gonna lie to you. I was like, what? 48-yard pass to the man, and then Lutz hit the field goal. I'm like, wow. That's the Russell that I remember. So I don't know if this was the start of that. Maybe the Bears kind of helped spark his resurgence, but I was excited to see that, man. It was a pretty awesome game. I mean, Fields didn't mess around either. He had some good stuff going on as well too, man. I just don't know why I think some things intangibles caused him to lose this game, because he threw for 4 touchdowns yesterday.
Yeah, I mean the defense stopped playing, because I mean they actually did a decent job against the Broncos in the first half, and then that. Whatever adjustments were made, or, scheme, just seemed to start to work in the second half. But, the Broncos come on, and then the Bears couldn't do anything anymore. Yeah. So I don't know. It's interesting, because even in the Broncos win, right? So you like that they came back and all of that. You still have a lot of questions about how they played in the first half, because they did not look good.
Yeah. Well, let's move into even a quicker pace. I ain't gonna spend a lot of time when the Vikings and the Panthers. I want to just mention it because I got a couple of concerns that came out of that game. The way Cousins looked was just a couple of INTs, and it was just really bad looking. Should we be concerned if the Vikings just got by a winless team? I mean, literally just squeak past them. You know what I'm saying? And then Young and his injury that happened during the game, I believe it was. Yep. People were talking about it all preseason about his tangibles, height and weight, and can he take hits, and just is his body made for this kind of game at this position? Is he too small? All that kind of stuff. I mean, they are in a serious hole right now. They haven't won a game yet. They have literally very little chance to go into the playoffs. A lot has to happen. I mean, the 92 Chargers did it, but it's a big hill to climb. But I just wonder, what you think about both situations. The Vikings kind of squeaking past this team, and of course, Young and his tangibles, and is it a legit concern or not? As quick as you can, please.
Yeah, so the Vikings, I don't worry too much. They've been in every game. They're just losing by that one possession, like they were winning by them last year.
Yeah,
So I mean, I don't put, I'm not super worried about them. I didn't have them making the playoffs anyway. So,
yeah, that's right.
I thought they were taking a step back. There's no way you're going to win as many games one possession like they did last year. And then when it comes to the Panthers, this is kind of what I thought they would be. And Bryce Young, I knew he was going to get murdered behind that line. So it just, yeah, like, I mean, that's the worst thing about being picked up high is you're going to a bad team. And being a smaller guy going to a spot with a bad offensive line, like I didn't have high hopes for him. I knew Andy Dalton was going to play. I didn't expect him to play week 2 against the Hawks, but or week 3, whatever week that was. Then he comes back, week 2. So then he comes back and he plays, and then he gets injured again. Like, I think he's going to have a really rough first season solely because that offensive line has no protection for him.
All right. Let's change pace a little bit before we move into the last game I want to talk about, with the Raiders and the Chargers. Before we get to that, I'm going to give you 3 teams, right?
Okay.
Tell me your quick thoughts about each team, right?
Okay.
The Colts from last night, they lost in a thriller in overtime.
Yep.
The Texans, who beat the Steelers handily, and the Bengals, who got the number 1 guy out here, number 1 wide receiver, saying I'm always open, frustrated, mad already. Here we go. So, Colts, Texans, Bengals. Quick thoughts for me.
Yeah, so I can kind of do Colts and Texans together.
Really? How?
Because I think both of them are ahead of schedule. Okay. So both of them are looking better than I thought they were going to this season. Bringing in rookie quarterbacks and having young pieces, both teams seem to be gelling a little bit better than I thought they were going to early in this season. Again, I don't think either one of them are making noise really overall, but I like what I'm seeing out of them. The Texans are playing really good football, and the Colts have been right there, right? So, I mean, they're going to be fun to watch. They're going to be a tough pick every week and pick them just because of that, because they're playing everybody tough. As far as the Bengals, ooh, man, they're in a rough spot. I did not see them just getting smacked. So I don't know if this is a problem with Burrow's injury, or if he's just not seeing the field particularly well, or if he's not trusting what he's seeing because he's injured. I don't know what's going on there, but they have a very real problem. And, if you're a Bengals fan, you're getting pretty close to realizing you're going to have a high draft pick.
My goodness, I think they were only one of 2 teams in the NFL that haven't scored a first half touchdown this season.
Yep.
I don't know how to explain it, but I guess I'm emotionally invested in this because I picked them to go to the Super Bowl.
I mean, they got some work to do if that's going to happen.
Sometimes, and this is a lesson for me for this year. I won't make the same mistake next year if I'm involved in a pick 'em of any kind, anything like that. I won't make the mistake of being emotional about it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna just go by what I see and what I know and make competent predictions. I ain't gonna put the Bengals in and have the Chiefs out like I did this year. I'm not gonna do that kind of stuff anymore. I'm gonna just be. I'm gonna go with what I think makes sense, and we'll just figure out what happens during the course of the season, because the Bengals pick does not look good. But I want to go into the Raiders and the Chargers real quick before we go to the poll question and comments, and then jump off. And also kind of talk about the state of the Raiders as well, because I'm kind of concerned about how this is going to work out. So our poll question was, can the Raiders be fixed? Yeah, great question. But as far as the game goes, the Bolts again winning with their legs, kind of almost reminiscent of what I was saying with Baltimore and the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. Herbert's a lot of rushing touchdowns, so he's doing it by himself because Eckler's not there. But they got 3 other backs on the roster, but for some reason, they can't seem to get it done. Only Herbert can be the running back and the quarterback too, which is like not great. So the run game is struggling a little bit in that area. It's not a long-term solution by any means. Devontae Adams at halftime had 1 target.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
1 target. Well, I don't care how many guys are surrounding him. I'd rather you throw it as double coverage than to not throw it to him at all. I mean, that's horrible. But they picked up in the second half. He got like about 13 receptions for 75 yards, which is great. I thought the game was a lot closer than what I thought it would be with them because I thought the Chargers were going to blow them out. I thought like air raid. I thought they were going to like put a 40 burger up on them. I really thought that if I had predicted it, that's what I would have said. Especially with a brand new rookie quarterback back there, not knowing what's going on. He didn't do bad, but I mean, it wasn't great either. Yep. But that Jerry Tillery thing, that's the thing that got my attention because he used to play for the Chargers. I remember him because in one of my defense fantasy leagues, I drafted him, and I said, you know what, he got a reputation of being nasty and mean. You want that in a DT. So I thought that would be great. Didn't work out with the Chargers for several reasons. One, because of multiple penalty calls all the time. It was killing drives. Yep. And now he went to Las Vegas, which I don't know. I didn't do their research, but he did the same thing there. Cheap shot at Justin Herbert, knocked him out of knocked him off his feet, out of bounds. Yeah. And the whole Chargers bench was already surrounding him like flies on you know what.
Oh yeah.
You know? And it was like, wow. So I'm surprised if he has a job before the end of the week. I'd be shocked if he's still working for the Raiders if his pass key still works. But aside from that, is what I thought. The Chargers were going to win that. I thought it would be handily, but they kind of came kind of close to not making it a real game, thanks to Josh Jacobs. But as far as the poll question, can the Raiders be fixed? Let's talk about that a little bit, man, real quick if we can, because I think with Jimmy G is already hurt. We know that part already.
Yeah.
Devontae Adams starting to make noise about being unhappy. I don't think he's just blowing smoke. I think he's really unhappy, and I can't really blame him. Going from the Packers to the Raiders is not really an upgrade. It seemed like it is because you think you had Derek Carr, your friend from back in the day, and you think that he'll be throwing the ball to because you guys are friends, kind of pulling on that friendship, kind of leveraging that. But that didn't work out. Carr got traded, and you stuck with Aiden McConnell, who didn't see you for the whole first half. So it's a very weird situation. I don't know how Mark Davis and everybody's feeling, but it's like this is kind of like to the point now it's getting really bad. I seen a comment from TJ Watt. You saw the comment from him after that game. He was saying that I'll just actually read the quote so I won't misquote him, but he said to have a team on a silent count in their own stadium is pretty demoralizing. It also helps the pass rush so much more. He had 2 sacks that day.
Yeah.
When he played. It's like this is coming from a opposing linebacker. That's not good. It says a lot about the whole atmosphere, the whole feeling from the team and the fans. It's like it's easy to say, oh, that's the way that they always doing Raider things, but it's been going on for a long time, though, man.
Sure.
I mean, Jimmy G holding the ball, receivers can't get open. Adams he running out of time with this. Yep. The head coach on the hot seat for very good reason. Yep. It seems like they don't even know what he's doing a lot of the time. They got 7 turnovers in 3 games before yesterday's game. I'm like, there's no sense of urgency. I mean, they're not managing the clock well. They're huddling in the red zone, walking to the line of scrimmage while they're in a crucial point in the game. I don't understand what's going on, man. Can they be fixed, man?
This season, no. They got a lot going on now. Jimmy G, I found that interesting because he's definitely not an upgrade from Carr, so I didn't really get the move anyway.
Same thing.
And then the way that they did Carr dirty at the end of last year also was kind of weird. Like they still had a shot at the playoffs, but they're like, yeah, get out of the building. I was just like, wow, is it excessive, right?
That's a great word for it. Is there another word we can use, like jacked up?
Right? Absolutely. Stuff. So and I'm not a McDaniels fan. So I don't love him as a coach in general.
You ever met one before?
What's that?
You ever met one?
What?
McDaniels fan. Yeah, you ever met one before? Do you know one? I never met one that loved McDaniels. I never met one.
Yeah, I mean,
I know Raiders fans and people who like Belichick and the Patriots, but I never met a McDaniels fan at all. Never.
Yeah.
Are they out there? Anybody a fan of McDaniels?
There must be, at least within the building. Because he still has a job.
What they want to do is get some of Belichick's secrets in the building.
Sure.
They're not fans of McDaniel. Same thing with Matt Patricia in Detroit. You think they really wanted him? I doubt it.
I mean,
they wanted the secrets.
From that coaching tree, you were hoping that you were going to get some of that. Right? Well, I mean, that's all you can do, right? So you're hoping as you elevate that guy that he's going to become that guy. And for whatever reason, Belichick's guys don't seem to.
Yeah.
But I mean, unfortunately, if you're a Raiders fan, this year is going to slip away from you quick, especially if Jimmy G is going to miss significant time. Not to say that this Aiden O'Connell, kid didn't do a decent job. He did, but he's a rookie. So you don't really know what you're going to get week to week, right? I mean,
yeah. I hope he does well, man.
Yeah.
I hope he does well. He looks like.
It's funny. I had to look him up. I was like, I don't even know who he is. He sort of looks like Rod Farva, and for my Super Trooper fans out there, you take a look. You'll see it.
Man,
but
I didn't know he was the backup. To be honest, I didn't know he was the backup of the team. I didn't know that. I thought I would think about somebody. I guess I was thinking about Peterman or somebody else. I didn't know who the backup actually was. I was surprised to see him, but I mean, he looks all right. But he's getting thrown into the fire like super early, not getting a chance to.
Yep.
I mean, well, Jimmy G just hurt. He's not gone. He's not dead or anything, so he'll be back. But I think the Connell kid can learn from some time. I think he looked decent considering the situation that he was in. So in that regard, the Raiders may be okay, at least going into the future, I would hope. As far as McDaniel, 18-30 as a career head coach.
Yep.
Past 20 games, 7-13. Yeah, that's not going to get the job done. So they got to do something. But you're saying no chance this year, they can't fix this, it's done. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, I would imagine not, just because you're starting to lose your locker room a little bit. Like, you're getting chirping from players. And as soon as that starts to happen, there's a toxicity that kind of fills the room. You don't usually see teams come back from it. They can, but the odds are low. Plus, they're in the AFC. So best case, you're third in the division, which means you missed the playoffs probably anyway. So
I don't understand. I want to spend some time on this, but I feel like we ain't got enough time for this. But it's like the offensive scheming and play calling. It's like McDaniels, you sat on the Belichick. That part when they were I think they were going to
defense would at least be good.
They were, no, I don't know because Patricia, I didn't care if he went to Detroit. I didn't care for Patricia. I didn't care for Judge. I didn't care for none of them guys. So that's just Judge almost destroyed our franchise by himself. But anyway.
No, it's funny because this hour went really fast this morning, because I also wanted to talk about what the Arizona Cardinals are doing, because although they're catching L's, the Dobbs kid looks good, and they were right there with San Fran. Yeah, I mean the score doesn't look like it at the end, right? Because they got a score at the end, and then Arizona had a couple of drops in the end zone, but that was a tighter game if you were watching the game. Like it was a good watch.
Oh yeah,
I like what I'm seeing out of Arizona. Yeah, Arizona's fighting, so I like what I'm seeing there.
Me too. I love a team that's going to fight and grind it out. Hope that happens tonight too. We need to fight. You can't be going to say, okay, yeah, go ahead.
I was hoping we were going to get to talk about this.
Hope it is a fight. Hope he in there grinding, and then it's that kind of game. We need to have that kind of test to get in the trenches and put in some work, man. But that McDaniel, I mean, I ain't got time for McDaniels right now. I'm like, some of the things, like when he was on the Pittsburgh 8-yard line, 4th and 4, decided to kick a field goal. You still need to have a touchdown to win the game. He kicks a field goal.
Yeah.
On the 8-yard line, I'm like, those kind of things, man, it's gonna get you out of a job.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how to fix this team. I mean, I'm just like my dad was a huge Raiders fan. I have no idea. He's from New York like me. I don't know how he loved the Raiders, but he moved to San Jose, lived in California the rest of his life, which is probably about 5 decades maybe that he was out there.
Oh, okay.
Something like that, 5 or 6 decades, 5 decades and a half, whatever it is, 55 years, somewhere around there. Love the Raiders, love the black hole, man.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I wonder how you feel. He probably didn't think about none of this kind of stuff now, but it's like, I wonder for him, like, come on, man. Get back to your former glory and play like you care. Do some smart stuff in play and personnel and stuff. It's just, I don't know how to fix it, man. This year, I think it's a wash. But what do you do next year? You can't just draft some more guys and just replace the head coach. Something else is wrong, and that's what I'm trying to ask you about. I'm trying to figure out what's wrong. Something else is going on here. Something ain't right.
I mean, it starts with
mom and Bo ganging up on me already this morning.
Huh? Yeah, you know it. I was hoping we were going to get to do a little pregame, but we're running out of time here. But honestly,
how much time do you need for pregame? I make time for it because we can't talk about things. So go ahead. Let's go for it. Go ahead. Pile on, Mom. Come on, bro. Give me your best shot. I'm ready for it.
To answer your first question, though, I think it has to start with getting McDaniels and his crew out of the building. I mean, because you got dudes on that team, so it's not like they got scrubs, right? Like, if you can't effectively use Adams, then you're scheming stuff wrong. Because he's one of the best receivers in the league. If you can't effectively use that guy, the problem isn't that receiver. So, because, I mean, he set his own single season record, if I remember right, his first year there with Carr, as far as yardage. So, I mean, it's not like you can't use him. Carr used him just fine. And so you get Carr out of the building because of whatever that issue is. And now you have Jimmy G, who was a downgrade overall. And, and now your offense isn't effective. So, I mean, I feel like that is a coaching and GM issue.
Yeah. All right. So you got 5 minutes for pregame. The word, man. Go for it. Pregame. Giants. You guys coming to Jersey. So Seahawks at Giants.
Yep. Headed to New York. Or Jersey, I guess.
Yeah, whatever, right?
But this is going to be kind of a good game to see really both teams, because I don't trust Danny Dimes if he's left to his own devices. If he doesn't have a strong running game, I haven't loved what I've seen out of him. And your defense is inconsistent, I guess is the way I would say it. Like, they have moments where you're like, oh, okay, they look all right. And then they have other moments where they can't stop anything. And then, you go over to the Seahawks side, and our rush defense is still not great. It looked decent last week, but that's only because they didn't try and run. So, I mean, the numbers were low, but there was only, their main running back had 9 touches. So that's not exactly a successful way to run the ball. But, so the front seven is still a real question. Not that you guys have a great running game without Saquon. And then the offensive line is still a real problem. And so we'll see if you guys on the defensive side have been able to watch enough film as to what Seattle is doing to make to be able to shut down that kind of triple tight end rush and pass blocking kind of setup that they've been running. And the Hawks come in with 11 guys on the injury report, not including the guys on IR. So there's definite opportunity for this Giants team to get after Geno. So, it's actually it should be a real battle.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for that because at this point, this is the kind of game that we not only need to win, but we also need to kind of get back to what we do. We talk about being the New York Football Giants. When I think about that, that's what I think about. It's not just the Super Bowls. I think about the smash mouth, hard nose, grinding the head down, popping people in the face kind of football. And that's kind of what I think it's been missing in spots for a while now. For me, I'm like, there's a lot of factors that I'm thinking about this game. One, Andrew Thomas is going to be out. So the left side is going to be compromised a bit. We can move some folks around and see what happens with maybe Bredesen and moving him around. I don't know. I think he can play tackle too, I think. But Barkley's supposedly going to be out, but I guess he's kind of doubtful. I don't know if they're going to try to push that or let him sit out and get healed up. I know Jamal Adams is coming back, so we expect to see him kind of get back there, and who knows what happens with that. I don't have any super high hopes. It kind of is what it is. So so looks like Ezra dude is going to be I'm killing his name because I don't really know him enough to know how to say his name, but he's going to be starting for Thomas. So Benson be back at guard and everything. So it's not going to be. Hopefully, it's going to be strong enough to at least give DJ some time. I think that's where the biggest problem has been with the running game. I feel like we need to use the run game instead to pass up because we got speed out there. We're high. I don't know nobody on the Seahawks that can handle the kind of speed that we got going on back there. Honestly, I don't know anybody that can do that. Maybe you do because that's your team. But when Hyatt and Shepard and boys and Slayton out there, I don't know who can run with them. But for that to happen, is predicated on DJ having time. And that's time in the pocket to see the field and let these routes develop and put the ball in the right places. Honestly, despite all the criticism I hear about DJ, he's not an inaccurate quarterback. You may say, "Oh, he's not $40 million worth." I leave it to you to decide, what it's worth. But he's not inaccurate. His first year, without a doubt. But then again, so was Eli, and he grew out of that stuff, and he's been accurate really since then. It's very rare that he doesn't put the ball in the right place. He doesn't have a high amount of interceptions when balls bounce off receivers' hands and stuff, which happens to people. So if he has time, I think we got ourselves a real matchup.
Well, I think you guys actually do lead in drops.
Yeah. That's not his fault. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we've got to put the blame where it lies, but I'm looking for a tight game. I'm looking for a game that I hope it's not all field goals, but I'm looking for a tight game. And if we can win it in the trenches, I think we can pull a win out. I think we need it really bad. I know the Seahawks say the same thing. We need to have this win. Yeah. You need it as bad as we do. Because going 1-3 is not ideal for us. I mean, just to get the division part, just period. To be in the conversation, to have a chance at potentially making any kind of playoff or wild card, anything. One of three is like, you know what?
I was going to say, and the Hawks are exactly the same way because they need it to be able to keep pace, right? Because I mean, you have San Fran, who is undefeated, so I mean, you got to be able to keep pace with that to be able to make it in. I think if you guys do drop this game, though, you're in real trouble.
Yep. If that happens, well, I need to see some changes happening because forget wait to the end of the season. Let's go ahead and pretend like we really care about changing this situation and start moving some stuff out. Some coaches down, like I said about 2 or 3 weeks ago. They can be gone. I won't shed a tear. There'll be no Kleenex used for them. on my account, you can go. Pack your bag. Don't come back. Don't even turn back. Don't even look back. Go. I want them to go. So that's where I'm at. But I think we ran out of time, man. So we have to just regroup and get ready for this game tonight.
Yep. Excited for it.
And next Monday, jump on in again. But wherever you guys are and however you listen to the Call Me Mr. You, the podcast, thanks again for making us a part of your morning, your day, and your week. We're your weekly mirror check before you change the world. Thanks for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Go change the world, baby. Have a great day, guys. Thanks again. Thanks, Bo.
Take it easy, guys.
See you next